Okay, and welcome to our next video in this Fit Mind series. I'm with psychologist Dave Williams this morning. Thanks for being with us, Dave.
Not a problem. Thanks for having us, Matt. Pleasure.
I've got a couple of questions I'd like to fire at you just to get your thoughts. But this particular video is all about help seeking. And you've been around the AFL and the elite sport industry for a while now. I'm just wondering what you've noticed in terms of the sort of the topics, the themes, or the issues that players and past players, for that matter, want some help around. What are they seeking support for?
Yeah, it's a good point, and it's a question that gets asked broadly all the time. I think everyone's curious about that. My experience tells me that most of the stuff that comes through the door, specifically talking in elite sport and football, which is our audience, right, is that most of the stuff that comes through the door is not because something is wrong, broken, or there's a really major problem. There's actually a curiosity about, hey, I want to get better at something. How do I concentrate for longer? Or I feel a little bit stressed before big games. Is there anything I can do to manage that? And so we're not talking specifically about a mental health issue. We're actually talking about the role that the brain plays in performance. But then performance extends to looking at, well, how do I perform as a partner, as a friend, as a family member? So we start to get things like family arguments and how do I navigate moderate stress that comes with that, relationship issues, concerns about how's my child going at school. He seems to be quiet when he comes home, and we've got a first time parent who's in a system that is learning lots about early indications of struggle and distress, and so a lot of the time we're getting these proactive and preventative conversations that come through, and then of course there's on an occasion. There's the acute things that come up where, there's grief and loss. There's a death in the family. There's a breakdown of one of those relationships. And or there is a mental health issue that may come up, but likely that unveils itself over time due to having relationships and trust and security. So my experience is it's a difficult thing to answer because we get everything that fits along the continuum of human existence to some degree. So that would be probably how I would answer that.
Yeah, and it sounds very much like, in your opinion, like with their footy skills, players seek sort of help and support and improvement. When things are dramatically wrong, they might be injured, but also, when they're not injured and actually going well, they just want to be more stronger, more powerful, better.
Yeah, these guys are and girls are competitive beasts in a lot of ways, to use the common parlance. And there's one thing that most people like to do is to get better. And so if there's a stone that they can flip over and say, well, I haven't tried this stuff, then my experience with athletes is they're generally willing to look at that and say, hey, if I can do something that helps me learn faster, make decisions quicker, concentrate more, or be able to calm myself faster, I'm all in. I want to know, because sport really matters to them, and these are skills, key psychological skills that are attached to that, and they're an important part of the delivery of psychological services, to not just to look for stuff that's broken, but to enhance what is very capable and what we can take from good to great.
Great. No, I love it. Well, thanks for that little bit of insight there, Dave, which sort of leads me to the next question. With this huge variety of things that they might want to improve and have help and support around, who are the people that players are seeking out for that support? Where are they going to for support?
Yeah, and I think my experience has shown me that probably the sources of support are slightly less varied than the types of issues that come up, but they're somewhat predictable over time. And so whether it's the conversation, I was just talking to such and such a player, and he told me that he'd been working with you. And so it was through this peer network, if you will, of trusted peers who we respect. The role of player development managers for current players in clubs when they've got a really good PDM and there's a trusted relationship there. Often that's a really good referral source. But even the more standard things, if we're thinking outside of elite sport, which are more common to everybody, which is sometimes you've got a really close friend who isn't part of your workplace, or a family member, someone that you speak openly and honestly to, who may have just noticed and asked you a question about how you're going or showed some concern, and you end up in a deeper and meaningful conversation than maybe you intended. So I feel like it's, there's relatively similar streams. There's looking at what's my relationship lines look like, and it might be through your PDM or your peer or your family or your agent, who are often like extended family members. And in the case for us, as psychologists that have worked in the club space, it might be actually going to see your club psych, as most people have access to now when I'm thinking about the current players. And then of course there's a whole range of external operators that fit into that mix as well.
Yeah, and just to take that a little bit further, so those external people, some people will want to have their issues sort of dealt with and have support sort of outside their employment, sort of outside the club area. Who can they access there in terms of the types of professionals?
Yeah, well, I've been saying for a few years now to anyone who will listen in Clubland is that we should be really proud of what we have in AFL, in that our players have the best private health system in world sport, in my view. They'll literally have a player development manager drive them to an appointment and take them home and make sure they get there okay. And there will likely be a follow-up call from the club psychologist and the club doctor, and there will be someone nursing them along the way, so to speak, let alone the care they get from their teammates. That's the sort of in-player space for current club players. But then the past players piece, why we should be really proud, is that is a support system that continues, albeit in a slightly different degree, when, as you say, when there's people that want to get support outside of their workplace. The Players Association Psychology Services System, which you and I know well, is arguably the envy of all sports in this country, in that it's literally just a phone call away to be connected with somebody who is external, who is close to you geographically or based on issue, whatever it may be. Certainly in COVID times, the world all feels closer now with the advent of things that can happen like this over Zoom. Having access unimpeded without paperwork to be able to simply get through to someone you trust and be connected with someone whose quality can be assured. It's a support structure that the guys should be and girls should be so proud of, because it's part of what they've built, and it's a piece that we see other sports now inquiring about often and wanting to build. And to have that for the lifespan of the player means whether you're in club or out of club, help is only ever a moment away.
And one last question, with all that in mind, all this support that players can access, I'm wondering, and it's ready and available, and I wonder what the barriers are. What stops people from getting to that support? As you say, if it's quick, if it can be the connection can be made really quickly. What gets in the way?
Yeah, and I think my experience tells me what gets in the way sometimes is that there's a complexity in the system, and the complexity might be that there's this case is not necessarily an open and shut case. There might involve a few different people. So I'm thinking of scenarios where a player may step forward. They may not be concerned about themselves, but they're worried about their mum and dad at home, and something really difficult has happened back home. So it requires the Players Association to be able to reach out to people they haven't yet met through someone that they are connected to in the player, and establish a connection, try and understand what's happening in the case, and then find the appropriate people based on the issues presenting. And because those people are, they're private practitioners out in the world, see if they can negotiate the fastest possible response time. So it's a little bit different for, I guess, players' expectations sometimes are like surgeons. When you get hurt playing the game, they're kind of on speed dial, right? Like they can get in straight away and get out because they've already got all these things sitting there in the background. It's a little different for the mental health space, but not just for our players. That's for the public in general. A lot of people have been talking about extreme waiting times due to COVID loading, and so we have a really fast system, but it may not be as fast as they're used to if their knee's broken, for example. But it's super fast based on current mental health. So I think some of the barrier is that human functioning is 360 degrees. It can go in any direction. Your elbow can only extend and flex. So if that breaks, there's still complex work to be done, but we can locate it quickly. Being able to graph through the story and work out what the drivers are, find the appropriately skilled people and set those things up, just takes a bit more legwork. So that might be part of what slows things down or is a barrier. And also who to talk to first. Like I think that's a huge question. Mental health is extremely complex. And in Australia, they're literally going through a royal commission to try and, work out some of these things for the general public. So, having someone guide you through the complexity of the system is an important step in the equation.
Yeah, look, and you've given us some great things to think about there today, Dave, in terms of the role of, connectors and teammates and family members, and just the sort of the complexity of mental health and wellbeing sort of issues. Some great stuff for everybody to contemplate. So I thank you for being with us on this Fit Mind series today.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, catch you. Thank you very much.
No worries. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for the chat.